Welcome to our April edition of Tea Time with Kids Regio. We started north in Sweden, went a bit south to Switzerland, and now we're going east to Poland. I am very delighted to today welcome Maciej Jakubczyk, head of or a director of the youth department, as I just learned, and part of the board of the New Horizons Association in Warsaw. Hello, Maciej.
Hello, Anna.
We are going to talk about a lot of things happening in Poland. I know you do a lot of initiatives under the roof of the New Horizons Association. We will also have a look at other things happening in Poland, but we will start with our established first question, which is, what are you drinking and what does your cup look like?
I can tell it that I just poured it from this stuff. And I'm drinking it in here. And you asked me to share with an important tool to drink. And this is my important tool to drink because it's a thing that I'm taking to every outdoor activity that I'm doing, which I really miss a lot nowadays. And it's an important part of my life. So I'm drinking coffee here and sometimes tea. And it's traveling with me and my family, in different places, hopefully shortly in mountains, but if not, then to some forest or to some gliding field or so.
Yeah, we all miss that. Do you also take this one to festivals in case we're ever going back to festivals?
Actually, the thing that is not lacking on festivals is on the place is coffee, so I don't have to take it.
It's good, but I actually always miss coffee and water during Berlinale events because you're always running from one place to another and you usually don't have time to stop at a coffee shop, but you're visiting markets, so probably that's different because you have the VIP badge that has access to coffee.
No. On Berlinale is a unique thing where you need to have a bottle of water because then you really get dehydrated by 2 p.m. or something.
True. Well, let's start talking about Poland and not about festivals. So I would be curious about the overall situation, the overall atmosphere within the film industry, and then more especially for the children's film industry in your country. Can you tell us a bit about that?
I think that the people are now really much working on development of projects that for the production, and I really feel that this is the time when, since a year, the Netflix start to be really a strong producer in Poland. So when they just announced 2 weeks ago or something, the list of productions for next year, it was a really huge list. So I believe this is bringing a lot of opportunities to Poland, but probably also some threats. But that's for the producers. For the all entrepreneurs, like we are doing a film festival, we are doing film distribution and film education. Of course, it's a very challenging time because first of all, we are not knowing what will be the new construction of the market, whether the cinemas will be back in place and the audience will be back in place, which cinemas will reopen and which wouldn't survive, in fact. What will be the percentage of audience that will be attending the cinemas. For instance, our model of bringing films, quality films for children to Poland is a model which is obviously strongly based also on cinema screenings. Of course, we do it on festivals, we do it in a regular distribution, we do VOD, but school screenings were always a base for it. So we are trying to guess whether schools will be willing to attend cinemas on a group meetings or they will be only willing to attend screenings where it's one class, one screen, and so on. So there's a lot of questions for us, and because of our initiatives, main initiatives, events are in September. It's Kids Kino International Film Festival and Kids Kino Industry as a forum. We are trying to to guess whether they will be online, hybrids, or maybe there is any chance to be real life. But if it will be real life, then is the question at what time of the year we can decide it will be a real life. So the atmosphere is, I will say, waiting at the moment.
I think it's the same in many countries. And now you went through all of our questions that we will have later already on a surface, and we will dive deeper into that. So let's focus more on the production side of the question, and not only on the pandemic times, but what does it generally look like in Poland? How many productions do you have? Is there a lot of children's films production or not? And what kind? Is it more animation, more live action? Documentary?
You know, the last year that we can really take in comparison was 2019, actually, which was a sum up of the 2019, and we can say that that was another year in a row when the audience in the cinemas was higher than last year. So it was, you know, the highest number of admissions in the history, and higher than before. And it was year after year more strongly based on Polish films. You know, we have a film that crossed 5 million admissions in 2000, I believe it was 18 or 19. Again, first time in the history. So the Polish cinema in terms of production was getting stronger and stronger. And that's the plus of the whole changes that are happening. So we also, you know, from one hand produced art house films that were running for important awards in the world, but also we learned how to shoot and distribute the genre films. And that was also a strong thing, because then, you know, it was a sort of, we can name it that it was sort of measurement of health industry that is really having a pretty broad capacity and landscape of different films. But the production for children here was still on a low side. So I can say that, I don't know, since 5 years or so, we are having less than 2 films a year. I mean, by feature films a year done in Poland. There was 2000, I believe, 18, where there was no film released for kids. And the thing is also that the film that was getting the higher audience, and also it was a good quality film, was in 2017. It was Double Trouble. It was a film that came up from our development lab. And then no other film afterwards make a success in cinemas. And also in terms of quality, not all the films that were released were good quality films. Or at least the audience didn't, and the critics didn't, concern it as a well-done films. So in terms of production, I just can name it that we are doing a few steps forward and a couple of steps back, and the tendency is better than 5 years ago, but it's still far from stability and like, you know, a pure optimism. In fact, we are stronger and stronger in series and in animation, but still, this is something which is not so strong in the 2019 landscape, when there was the cinema in center of everything. Of course, series didn't change the world; they were on some places. Now the landscape, of course, is changing, and cinema doesn't take such an important role. But still, I don't feel that the atmosphere is very, you know, that everybody's looking for some new projects and want to get a children project in their portfolio. So
it's often the case, and that often changes, I feel, when there is infrastructural, structural support, when there's development money or production money, especially dedicated to young audience content. Do you have something like that in Poland?
We do. From 2016, we have an allocation in Polish Film Institute, which is more or less 2.2 million euros altogether. But for Poland, like a film with €1 million budget or €1.5 million budget is not bad. So this little more than 2 million actually more or less fitted the number of quality projects that we're applying. Of course, it could be more. It could be more for development. So the more projects could be in advanced development, and then maybe some of them become better films. But the challenge is somewhere else. That's the first step. The second step is that producers have to find another half of budget for films. And here they are struggling. And of course, if they want to make a film with some VFX, then the budget from PFI is not even half of the budget. And here's the problem, which is connected to the atmosphere, that basically there's no very strong will and certainty in terms of investors that they should, and it's good for them to invest in children movies. So I know a couple of animations that are for ages trying to, complete the budget. They're good projects, they got granted from PFI, but they cannot close the budget.
So people don't really see the business opportunity behind children's films or youth films in your country, you would say.
And that's a little bit something that, from my observation, two projects that have the highest numbers of admissions in Poland. There was Double Trouble, which got 350,000, and then Behind the Blue Doors, which got 250,000. It was 2016 and 17. But they actually were based on original stories. Well, Behind the Blue Doors was based on book, but it was not a,
not a successful book. Not everybody read it.
It was a good book, but it wasn't, the characters were not known everywhere, and it was not classic book and so on. And then the topics in those films were, well, Double Trouble was adventure film, but still with no great casts in terms of, big stars. The story was pretty analog, that kids were looking for a, hidden treasure in the neighborhood. So no, galactic adventures and so on. And Behind the Blue Doors was actually about a mother in a coma or something. So the topics were pretty hard. The cast was not spectacular. The bases were not so strong in terms of marketing, but those films made a pretty decent audience. So I think it was very promising. I really hoped that will make, this wheel spinning, but actually it didn't.
Yeah, but you said that when you get money from the Polish Film Institute, you still need to secure the other half of the budget. So when you get financed by the PFI, that is 50% maximum that they're financing, and you need to find the other 50% elsewhere. And usually it's private investment, you said, that goes into the movies in Poland then, or how does it work?
Well, the combinations, there's a number of combinations. Of course, you can go to television, but televisions are here probably one of the weakest points in terms of feature films, at least. They don't want to invest in features for children. Then it could be a distributor. And in case of Double Trouble, called Tarapaty in Polish, the strong investor was the distributor, the local funds, sometimes some private money, and sometimes some possibility of co-production, actually.
Okay. So you also have regional film funds in Poland?
Yeah, we do.
And do they have a lot of money, or is it rather like a touristic point of view that they are taken so that their cities are depicted in the films?
Well, those are not a very, outstanding budgets, but if you connect a couple of them, it might be a significant part. Because of this other 50%, of course, part of those second 50% could be your in-kind, which is not financial. Then in this case, every money that you get in cash is significant.
True, absolutely true. No, it's really interesting to see how the financing structure in different countries is so different, because in Germany, our regional film funds are quite strong also when it comes to budget. So there are you don't need to combine all the regional film funds in Germany to get as a financing partner. Usually you get one or two of them.
But also, in terms of projects, I don't see many projects that are well made and well prepared from the business point of view. So first of all, that they don't base on known IPs. There are always endless rights issues in Poland regarding IPs, the classical ones at least. But then people are not thinking in the terms of a franchise, that they can think in the same time about the sequel or, 360 approach to the projects that they are developing. So so this is something which is basically not only not being produced, but it's not also very often being developed. So
that brings us actually to the question of development programs, so training initiatives, because you just said that there are a lot of different parameters that need to be that need to fit for a successful, and then we can discuss the definition of successful for a children's film. Of course, that's a whole other discussion. But you need to have some training in place. You need to have people in the industry actually knowing what they have to do when it comes to young audience content. Is there anything happening at universities, at film schools, or is there only independent offers, or is there actually offers in Poland?
Well, so actually, starting from film schools, I cannot be 100% sure that there wasn't any masterclass or small thing in some film school, but there's nothing which is more regular and more complex. We actually started to, we call it a feeding program for our development program. We have a Kids Kino Lab, which is a development program for writers and producers. At the moment, it's an international project. So we have producers and writers from all over Europe that are applying to us with an idea for a series or feature. It could be documentary, it could be an animation, it could be live action. And then we are together with our tutors, we are developing those projects to the advanced level of script and a production package. Among our tutors, we have, for instance, Filip Lazebnik, who is a main writer of Mulan and Pocahontas back in the years, but now he's working regularly in Europe, living in Denmark, so he's not out of space here. But also we have Ronald Kruszak, who is a German producer as a tutor of producers. We have many star guests that are consulting the projects. So this is something which we are proposing to the industry. We actually mainly focus on Poland, but now we go international, and I think it's also healthy for our industry to make producers connect and see what's happening in other countries, and also to make connections in the region, since our idea for Kids Kino as a festival, but also as an industry, so the forum and lab as a development program, is to have a main focus, not only, but main focus on the region of Central and Eastern Europe countries. So first, what we want to do, we want to make relations and network in the region. And here, coming back from schools, when we see the applications from Poland for our development program and industry for the pitching, we see that there's not many new talents coming into the market. So we thought that there's need to start to talk with the students from the film schools, that there is this career category as shooting for children, because I bet that for most of them, at least live action film for children does not exist other than a television production or a bad television production, which you sometimes can see. So they thought that if talking about family, they can do big animations like from Disney, which is of course for them something like science fiction, or this bad television production. So they didn't know that there's an existing market, an existing production, existing value of quality European, at least live action films for children. So we thought that we should do masterclasses there and work on development there. We've done it once but then next year when we wanted to do it, the COVID came. I hope we will come back to this idea to try to make at least students to have this, a world in their minds. Films for children might be an opportunity for me,
I think Also, that is a problem in many countries, also in Germany, that at film schools, children's film production is not topic that you handle within your studies. There's not a study program for that, and as far as I'm aware, there's also not a module or something within your studies that you could choose. So let's work on that. Let's approach the universities about that. But you already talked a bit about Kids Kino Lab, Kids Kino Industry, Kids Kino Festival. I think now comes the point where you need to explain to us New Horizons Association and what different activities you have under the roof, because it's just so much and everything together is just confusing.
Yeah, okay. Well, we are a non-governmental organization, so we are based on donations and income, but we are not having a direct funding from the government. And we are based in Warsaw and Wrocław, which is southwest of Poland. And we actually have two, let's say, branches. There is an adult branch, which is for the New Horizons International Film Festival, which is happening in Wrocław. And it's actually the biggest art house film festival in Poland. We do it in our own cinema. It's Kino Nowe Horyzonty, Kino New Horizons, which is the biggest art house cinemas probably in Europe, because we have 9 screens and over 2,000 seats there. And that's in Wrocław. But we have other branch, which is Kids Kino, let's call it like that, which I am head of. The education department is organizing that. Where we have a Kids Kino Festival as a basis, and then a distribution of films that were introduced on a festival. Because for the festival, we buy for some films the full rights and do the dubbing and so on. So at least 10 films a year are staying in Poland with us, and we distribute them regularly. But then we have our educational program in cinemas in the normal times. Where we program over 90, around 100 last year, it should be, cinemas all over Poland for a school screening for the whole school year. So that means that the films that we are bringing to Poland, we have a sustainable life, to keep them on the meeting with kids for all of the 6-7 years of the license. So this is about dissemination of quality children films, which makes us, an idea how to have a decent audience for even art house films for children. And another part is the support for production, where we have development program, Kids Kino Lab, where we bring up the ideas, and then we have a window for those projects. It's called Kids Kino Industry, as it's a pitching forum with projects from our lab, but also from the open call from all over the world, where we bring together the projects to be pitched of series and features, and decision makers that could be the co-producers, broadcasters, platforms, or co-producers in terms of local partners in different countries.
So this the only
360.
Thing yeah. So the only thing missing in your value chain is actually that you produce the movies yourself.
We actually started our short story now and the production, because we co-produced a small documentary film for children. It was 10 minutes, and it was actually co-production for a German partner who's doing this great, fantastic projects called 199 Little Heroes.
Oh, yeah.
And it was constructed from episodes from all over the world, and we actually produced the Polish part. And we are hoping to enter the co-production of a series that then we will be releasing in cinemas.
Okay, so really 360 degrees for everything. Wow, and everything under the roof of a non-governmental organization. That's crazy.
Yeah, those projects are supporting each other, so that's also making us, survive in this very difficult times nowadays.
Sure. So you have this Kids Kino Festival. Are there other festivals aimed at a young audience in Poland?
Yeah, of course. There's the oldest film festival in Poland called Ale Kino in Poznań, where we actually were, going when we were young and beautiful, and where we were learning, and still they are in some parts of our masters. And then there is another film festival in Warsaw called Cinema in Sneakers. That is also for smaller children, but it's also for teens, which we don't do actually. Our festival is up to 12, and Cinema in Sneakers are having doing a great challenge to try to reach the teenagers. And then there is a traveling festival in Krakow and in southern Poland, because it's in more than one city, called Kinolob. And probably you can name other initiatives, but probably those four were the main ones.
But of course, looking into the future, streaming offers, VOD offers are also quite important. And you just said in the beginning that Netflix is doing a lot apparently now in Poland, but what is happening in the streaming market? What are the VOD offers to the young audience in Poland?
Well, we don't still have Disney Plus here in terms of the bigger players. We have Amazon Prime, which is doing very low profile at the moment. Apple TV, which is also rather doing low profile. Netflix very strong. And other platforms, and all, including local ones, that are trying to find their way. HBO is still classic HBO, it's not HBO Max. But obviously it's a stronger and stronger market, but at the moment it's going together with the pay TV mostly. So this is the stronger part, that then an SVOD is going together with the pay TV as a package. We are also trying to enter that market since all our initiatives were based partly on income, and those income were from cinemas. We actually, pretty fast have this idea that last spring that we have to develop our own tool, because we will need it for festivals, we will need it for education, we will need it probably for distribution, or at least distribution events. So we actually managed to develop our own player, which was used on all our festivals in their hybrid versions. And then we use it for school screenings. And then we actually last February, at the end of the February, we established our own New Horizons VOD, regular transaction VOD platform. And actually I got to say that, at least from the experience of the festival of Kids Kino, we were very much afraid of this hybrid version, and the amount of energy back, the great energy from our audience, and also partly from numbers, was really, really encouraging, in terms that people watched a lot, they really much appreciate it. They do not get sticked only to a couple of most popular films, but they were also watching those more difficult films. They wrote us a lot of great feedback and so on. So it was very optimistic.
So on top of everything that you told us earlier for New Horizons, now you're also doing a VOD platform.
Yeah, step after step, we now opened at the end of the February regular platform. But of course, with all those limitations that transaction VOD platform has. So it's, it's small step after small step, but it's a way to, to find find audience in digital in general, and then to keep those people together with us.
Of course, I mean, you have to move with the future, or towards the future, of course. And I think that you have so many different initiatives under one roof also helps you a lot, because you talk to all those different people from all those different initiatives and are in close contact. Whereas in other countries, you have one initiative as one institution, and they're only talking to each other and then sometimes meeting other institutions. So everything under one roof is quite unique, but I guess also quite helpful at times. But I think we did not talk enough about one of your initiatives, which is the Kids Kino industry, that is kind of within the Kids Kino Festival, but also connected to the Kids Kino Lab. So where did that come from? When did you start it, and why did you do it, and what is it?
Well, it was the fourth edition last year. Well, we wanted to, first of all, to make a place for Polish industry to meet with international industry, to have a place where the industry will see what's happening in the world in terms of children production, and first see that there is happening a lot. So make them, thinking that, wow, there's a world out there in terms of children production. But second of all, to have a place where we can show the projects from our development lab to possible partners. And that was behind the scenes needs. And then we actually, when we sum up all those things together, it came out for us that there should be a space in the European landscape for another forum, for a pitching forum and co-production forum for children projects only, focus on live action, but also with some space for animation. And our initial idea was to try to grab, first of all, projects from of Europe, so CE countries, and meet them with some projects, but decision makers from the countries that produce a lot, because as far as we knew that time, that still the decision makers and co-producers and producers and broadcasters are still looking for content and new markets. And Poland is a 40 million country, which do not have still, the market well developed. So there is a space to develop films here and to have a success in terms of audience and in terms of production. And we have a minority scheme in PFI. We have a allocation for children production in PFI. So we really have a basis to create such a co-production forum. And at the moment, we are very happy because every year it was, we felt it was better and better, which appeared for us in the guests that were accepting our invitation, the decision makers that we can invite, and the feedback that was actually, well, I have one sentence as a quote from one of our participant, that he said that, there are those big forums like Cartoon Forum and so on, but then the big ones are mostly meeting big ones, and there's not much space to meet with them, or there's a very little time to meet them. And they are also coming, those big decision makers, to your forum, to Kids Kino Industry. And here I have opportunity to meet them, talk to them, have coffee with them, and make a personal relationship. So that was, something which was very cute for us to listen to this kind of feedback. And this is how we actually find our space in the industry. And probably what's more, you can observe us very regularly on our Kids Kino Industry talks, which are monthly, happening every month, webinars regarding industry challenges and issues, where we invite experts from all over the world.
I think we need to come to an end with this talk. We have been talking forever. So I have one last question, which is always the most important question for me personally, doing lobby work as well. Do you have any research in Poland that we can have a look at in terms of what's happening in production, in development, in film education, audience, whatever, any numbers?
Sorry, I have a goodbye going on in the background, so you might hear some voices. And it's also very spontaneous goodbye. But regarding research, actually, did you mean youth audience researchers or?
Yeah, children, youth, audience, production, development, whatever numbers. Do you have any?
Well, there's not many research going on now. We actually are planning to do our own research regarding the demand from broadcasters and platforms regarding what they will need in next future in terms of production. So what actually should be nowadays developed in terms of genre, age, and so on. But we are still waiting for funding for that. And there was a couple of research done 3 to 5 years ago regarding film education, and Poland was also part of film education surveys from BFI, I believe. So nothing very recent and not too much concerned regarding production, more rather film education.
Okay, so keep us posted if you get the money to support this research initiative that you have going on. That sounds very interesting. So if at some point in the future we have news about that, we will also post that under the video in the information section under the video. For now, I can only say thank you. You shared so many information with us, and the light kept changing on and off here because we have been sitting throughout the afternoon and talking. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you actually in Poland, maybe end of September, beginning of October for Kids Kino Industry.
Well, I really wish to come to Erfurt, in June. I'm looking, to at least meet the Kids Regio team on the festival there. But probably that's not possible. Maybe in September.
Hopefully
Warsaw.
in September. Fingers crossed for September, and have a good rest of the day. Thank you so much, Maciej, for this talk.
Thank you. Always a pleasure with Kids Regio.
Such a pleasure to have had you as a listener for this tea time. We hope you got some new information out of our talk. The next tea time will feature Portugal. Susana Costa Pereira will join me for a cup of tea and a chat. Working at the Portuguese Creative Europe desk, Susana has a great overview of the country. I'm excited to dive into the next session with her, which will be available May 27th, as usual, 3 p.m. Central European Time. See you then!